Welcome to our Natural Habitat Adventures daily dose of nature. We are here today to learn all about snow leopards and wildlife of the Himalayas. And our presenter today is Brad Joseph, coming to us from his home in Arkansas. He has been a career naturalist guide with NatHab since 2004. He has a degree in wildlife biology from University of Alaska Fairbanks, and he designs and guides trips all over the world, including Alaska, Borneo, China, Africa, and snow leopard expeditions in India. And his main mission through his career has been to promote wildlife conservation through responsible ecotourism. And I'm so excited about this topic today, Brad. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thank you, Lee, again for a great introduction. And hey, guys, I'm just so glad. I think we have, I'm scared to look, 820 people listening right now. So hopefully, like last week, my power doesn't blow out in a thunderstorm. Yeah, thanks, guys, for taking this time in the in the middle of the day to learn about something that's very, very not only important to me, but extremely important to the planet. Snow leopards need lots of loving. And I'm going to tell you why and how to love them and how things are getting better and better for what is one of the most not only charismatic of all the animals in the world, but also the most mysterious and unfortunately one of the greatest endangered ones. So I'll just get started here. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. So my history with snow leopards started back long time ago in about 2000. I was working at a remote bear camp, and one of the clients left me a book called The Snow Leopard by Peter Matheson. It's a fantastic book, one of the best natural history books, where George Schaller, this legendary wildlife biologist, the one that helped basically save the giant panda from extinction, also did tons of work with jaguars and lots of other animals, but he took on snow leopards before anybody knew about them. Took this tremendous hike into the Himalayas for months and months to try to just basically learn the first things about snow leopards. And he was accompanied by Peter Matheson, fantastic author who wrote a book about it. Well, this book inspired me so much that as soon as I left the remote camp, I went into the Himalayas. I flew to India, and I spent almost a month trekking through snow leopard country. Now, I knew I wouldn't see one. George Schaller never saw one during his month, so he did later on, but I mean, all this time. And so I knew that it was basically called the mountain ghost for a reason, because they are shy and virtually invisible in their landscape. So I knew I never would see one. I just wanted to get into snow leopard country. So I spent a lot of time hiking up to 17,000 feet and camping, and it's a pretty amazing adventure. But one time I hiked up this box valley at 15,500 feet, and there was a big rock. We were acclimating. We had to stay in this area for a few days to the altitude, and there was a huge rock, like a spire. And I thought, oh, I climbed up to the top, and I was like, I'll chill out up there, and I can have a real good vantage point. And on top of that rock was a big pile of snow leopard scats. And I knew what it was. And just that was one of the most amazing wildlife experiences of my life. Like, I was in snow leopard country, and that was enough for me. I enjoyed trying to find one, but I knew I wouldn't. I wasn't disappointed. Well, later on, I took a trip with my I'm not even going to call him a friend. I'll call him my brother, Philip, who is going to join me next week when we start talking about China conservation. That's going to be a super good webinar. And he always knew that I had a special infatuation and dream of seeing snow leopards. So I spent several weeks with him up in Qinghai province. And I'll show you a map of that in a minute. And we never saw him because we just were up there kind of by ourselves, and we didn't have the proper tools and experience to find snow leopards, but there were a lot of them up there. And I I think that that in the future that could be an amazing place for snow leopard tourism. So second. Here we go. Later on, I took part in some expeditions in India, and began to organize expeditions in India, in the Indian Himalayas. And this is kind of a faraway picture, but this was the first snow leopard I ever saw in my life in the wild. And I was brought to tears, and it was an emotional experience that I've never felt with any wildlife encounter in my life. And you guys know that I have done a lot of wildlife encounters, but this one was unbelievable. So I was just absolutely hooked. But what really hooked me the most was what I saw, how amazing. So NatHab's mission statement is conservation through tourism. And that's my mission statement in my life. It always has been as well. So what I found was the best example of tourism direct, basically helping this conservation of this incredible species. And I became very devoted to it, and I still am. So thanks for listening to this story. So before these films came out, snow leopards were something that you saw in an animal book, and basically was just almost a myth, a legend. It was the ghost, mountain ghost, and you just enjoyed knowing and hoping that they weren't extinct. But we didn't know anything about them. We just knew that they were. We'd see them in zoos and say, "Wow, imagine with those guys in the wild." Well, because of the technology with remote cameras and these incredible film companies and their big budgets like BBC, Disney Nature, there was some big, pretty blue chip, high quality films that came out. And they really put snow leopards on the map for real. So it's not like just seeing them in a zoo, like you're actually seeing them with remote cameras and seeing this beautiful mountain ghost. And people in the world begin to fall in love with them. So it's hard to fall in love with an animal that you'll never see in the wild, or there's not even any documented decent footage of what they do, or nobody knows about them. But when these beautiful blue chip films, Hostile Planet, Planet Earth 2, and then Born in China by Disney, there is beginning to happen something that I would like to call a snow leopard fever. Just like the pandas, people are obsessed with pandas. People are obsessed with orangutans. People are obsessed with polar bears, and that's fantastic. So now I think that we have the tools, and it's almost like the snow leopard needs help enough to just say, basically, hey guys, I know I'm the ghost, but here I am. Fall in love with me. Try to save me like you guys work on saving all these other species. And that's the beautiful part about it. Because snow leopards face so many problems. I mean, their numbers are very small. I mean, and we don't know how many there are, but I mean, imagine only 4,000. Look how big this range is. It's like almost the size of the United States, and just in these little sporadic islands of high mountains. And they're threatened throughout the range. And they were considered endangered, but now the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, about 3 years ago, changed that to vulnerable, and that was sounds like good news. Oh yeah, snow leopards are coming back, but no, it's just because our technology, and this is criticism coming from lots of snow leopard experts. We have technology that we can actually know snow leopards are there through genetics and camera trapping that we didn't know before. So it looks like their population is growing, but it's not. It's still falling, incredibly threatened. And just think about where these guys live, all the challenges. They live in some of the most hostile country on Earth. The high altitude, the super cold. It's like basically the polar regions, but you're at 15,000 feet and there's no oxygen. So, and then if you look at these countries that they live in, you've got China, India, and then of course the border of China and India, which is kind of always a nebulous problem where nobody can really even get close to it. The border of India and Pakistan, which if you guys are familiar with the current events, that's always a very sketchy area. Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then some of these other very undeveloped, Kyrgyzstan, places like that, the border of Mongolia and Russia. So it's not like they're in a place like the Yellowstone National Park with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Park Service protecting them. So these guys are a special concern. And as I talked about Qinghai province, you guys might not know what I'm talking about. So this is China. And the majority of the snow leopards live in China. And at the very, very high altitude regions of the Tibetan Plateau, which is just this area, and then also the Qinghai Plateau, which is sort of an extension of it. And this is basically a high plateau region with mountains that exceed 20,000 feet. And the plateau itself is around 15,000 feet. So that's a Qinghai province. Sorry, it's dry throat today. And when one of the most thrilling things is if you've never seen the Himalayas, to see them for the first time. I mean, it is a mountain range that nothing on Earth even comes close to. It's the highest mountains on Earth are there, and it's not only that, but it's just such a vast ocean of mountains. So to fly into a place where you're going to go see snow leopards, you look down and you just look down and you just like, it's awe-inspiring. You're just jaw-dropping, an ocean of high mountains. But this is, so obviously, if you look at this kind of area, this is in India, the most densely populated countries in the world. Well, this is just about 30 minutes north of Delhi in an airplane. There's nothing down there. It's because it's just too rugged for humans. Not all humans, but most. And this would be an area where you would look for snow leopards. This is in China, in Qinghai province. Searching for snow leopards, it's hard to even look at anything and concentrate when this is some of the most stunning mountain country in the world. But then look at snow leopards will be, if they're there, they'll be basically up on these caves and rock ledges, just invisible. You can imagine a tiny snow leopard up there watching you. He's seeing you from 3 miles away, but you can't see him. I'm just congested this morning. So yeah, more snow leopard country. Again, this is Qinghai province in China. And this is in India, Ladakh. This is also in Ladakh. So what I think is, a lot of times people say, oh, I like to go fishing because it just gets me outside or gets me into these cool places and stuff. I mean, just the chasing the snow leopard dream gets you into these situations where you are in the most pristine, remote, rugged, jaw-dropping mountain regions on Earth. But as far as photographing snow leopards, now I'm going to try to make you fall in love with snow leopards before we talk about the threats. And basically, I did a Google search this morning and screenshotted it. This is a search on snow leopard images. Every single one of these, I think almost every one, these are all images either from zoo or from the same snow leopard that lives at a place called Triple D Ranch in Montana. You pay a couple $1,000s and you get the snow leopard jump around in the snow for you, and you get these fantastic pictures. Some of the snow leopards have blue eyes, but most times when people take pictures like that, they actually use Photoshop to make those eyes look even bluer. So, when you look at pictures like that, you have to understand, like, it's not like Yellowstone where you can go out and get these portraits of animals. I mean, this is a challenge, and that's what makes it so sweet and amazing when you actually win and see one. Saw that one in the beginning, and these are just some still pictures that I got. They're far away. So most of the viewing that we do for snow leopards is through spotting scopes, and that's just something that you have to kind of realize. But still, you're seeing an animal that I'll say 40 years of my life, this was at the top of my bucket list of animals to see in the wild, but I knew that was never going to happen. But these are just some pictures that I took. These last couple of seasons have been fantastic. Natural Habitat has got a snow leopard program that is in the works, and it's up on their website now. They haven't run any trips yet, and hopefully they will soon, because snow leopards need as much love as they can and support. But so since they haven't run a trip yet, these are all from other trips that I was doing in a different place, kind of a different kind of tour. But these are pictures that I got. Now, all the snow leopards you see are not super far away. Sometimes you will get close, if you go up there enough, and you can get some fantastic images. And Lee, I think I'll show that first video that you put together, the compilation.
That is one of the most, that's potentially the coolest thing I've ever seen in nature.
Oh my God. Look at her. She's really on top there.
Oh, right on the very top. Look at her on the top.
She's right on the top.
Look at that.
Oh.
I just was going to say just the things that I wanted you guys to focus on. And this was, kind of long distance footage, but just how amazing it is. Like that is their habitat. And snow leopards run these ridge lines and they jump from rock to rock and they're at the, 15,000 feet. And it's just, you have to admire them so much. That snow leopard has a hard life. And also just seeing them move, and their characteristics, they're short and squat. They're only about 2 feet tall. And they can weigh for about 120. The biggest male might get to 160 pounds. So they're just super muscular. Their fur is 6 inches thick. And the coolest part about them, I think, is their tail. They've got a really, really long tail to act as a counterbalance for all those jumping from ledge to ledge. And also they store fat in their tail. And that just helps them. That's a good place for them to still be balanced, but store that fat. So when they're making death-defying leaps from across gorges and things, that heavy tail helps them. And they also use that tail as a blanket to protect their face in the super cold winter conditions. Actually, can you? Then the next one I'd like you to play, Lee. This one was, honestly, can say that this possibly was my most amazing wildlife experience in my entire life, and I was able to video it. We weren't so far away. I had to have a pretty substantial big lens. Shooting 4K video, so I was able to crop. But this stuff has been. You still there, Lee?
Yeah, I am. I'm with you, Brad.
Oh, okay, just something flashed on the screen. This kind of behavior that was not shot with a remote camera, but with a real camera, has never actually been documented in the wild. And so this is my footage of a mom and 2 spring cubs. I'm sorry, two young cubs, a little under a year old, playing around on the rocks. And just go ahead and play that video.
Kenrab, these cubs look like they're probably maybe almost 1 year old.
Yeah, it will nearly almost 1 year old cubs. It's from the cubs from the last year, huh? because from the size and because we are quite looking at from the spotting scopes very clearly that they are still very young, and then they playing with mother. Yeah. So in reality, that it's a privilege to watching these kind of the movements, how they playing with mother. So in this harsh mountain, in harsh climate, it's a huge challenge for the snow leopard mothers to take care of, to raise their youngs, because like a wolf, the males not helping the females to raise the young. Yeah. Instead of having this kind of the challenges, and she really take care of the youngs and raising them, and then let them to be, independent in the future.
Okay, so the other way that I've been able to get some really amazing footage to, basically the reason I try to get this media is to get people excited about snow leopards. That isn't just a picture that somebody took from a zoo. So that's kind of my mission, was to get some cool stuff, just like the BBC did on some of these blue chip nature films. But really the other way that you can get good stuff, like I said, is on game cameras. So this is us going up with the in cooperation with the wildlife department, setting up some game cameras, 2 different types. One of them's a video camera that I donated and brought. And then this is my friend and partner up there, Bazad, and he's setting up a DSLR system to try to get some cool stuff to get people excited about snow leopards. And those films that I mentioned in the beginning, Born in China, of course, was in Shanghai province, but The Hostile Planet and Planet Earth 2, this was actually the same ridge in the same spot, and we are using the same guides that I'll talk about in a little while to place these and strategically place them as it is in those films. So here we are up at about 15,000 feet, setting the stuff up, and just hoping that we're going to get some cool stuff. And I'd like to play a small compilation of my favorite game camera footage that I have collected so far with the wildlife department. Here's some of the pictures that Bazad got with his DSLR. So anyway, this is just cool stuff. Just stuff that if you had told me, even when I'm 20 years old, that I would be able to share these kind of things with 1,000 people that are logged in right now. It's almost at the limit. 984. It was 993 a few minutes ago. People. So anyway, back to the remote camera things, and this is where I'm going to start talking about threats and conservation. So the remote camera technology is a godsend for snow leopards. You know, not only when you have an animal that you need to conserve, like snow leopards, you need to know that they're in the habitat before you're going to try to do it. So the first thing was in China. I remember it was about 6 years ago. They were starting. WWF was beginning to set up game cameras in places they thought snow leopards were extinct. And because snow leopards are so hard to see, well, when they started setting up the remote camera traps, they actually were catching them in mountain ranges and realizing that there were a lot more snow leopards and snow leopard habitat that needed attention that didn't know. So, but because if you do the snow leopard, if you set up a game camera, lots and lots and lots and lots of game cameras, you have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. So Microsoft is pretty amazing with its AI technology, has taken snow leopard conservation on with the partners with the Snow Leopard Trust, and so they can basically upload all these images and say, okay, yep, you've got 35 different snow leopards, instead of spending so many hours trying to figure out, is that one the same one? So that's just a really cool thing, conservation success story that's going on with the help of Microsoft. What snow leopards really need the most are its native prey. So this is what snow leopards eat, and I'll tell you, I mean, these are big, strong sheep. These are blue sheep. This is probably the most classic of the leopard's prey. Big, strong, tough, alert, and the snow leopard is only 100 pounds usually, or even less. And I've seen them on some of the footage. They take down these animals. I mean, they are as tough and as aggressive and fearless as any large predator that I've ever known existed. So they're not just going after. This is like jumping down cliffs and trying to, you know, wrestle these guys and doing these falls that are 20, 30, 40, 50 feet down rock cliffs in order to get something to eat. So, but the snow leopards need sheep. They need these sheep, and so that's the first thing that you have to conserve are its native prey. Not just blue sheep, but y'all. This is a picture I got. This last winter, these are not my pictures, but I just so you show what they look like. This is other species that snow leopards eat, ibex and Argali sheep. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the threats. And climate change really is probably considered maybe like the well, you can read it there, probably the worst. But just look at this glacier, this picture. I think that kind of says it all. So everybody talks about the Arctic. We have to talk about the Arctic climate change, but the Himalayas is just as endangered. This is where World Wildlife Fund are just champions in the climate change. So it probably, they say, poses the greatest long-term threat to the leopards. And I'll just let you read that. So this is what World Wildlife Fund is doing. There's lots of people trying to help snow leopards. It's conserving snow leopards by securing the water resources, benefiting the communities. Because the problem is if you lose these glaciers, it's going to have far-ranging effects. And the problem with snow leopard, the glaciers provide sort of a consistent water source through the year that feeds rivers, like huge rivers. That basically keep the people in the region then happy and healthy. And if you have happy, healthy people, then you can actually conserve nature. So that's the number one thing. The other is that as the climate warms, that these farmers and grazing people, they can move higher up and utilize basically habitats that are the last strongholds of the snow leopards. So climate change is having huge effects in the Himalayas. And it's not a theory, it's happening super fast, and it's causing tremendous loss of habitat for snow leopards. The other one is poaching. And this is just, nobody really knows. How do you know who's poaching in these super remote parts of Asia and Mongolia, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan? But this right here is just a so basically a snow leopard's killed every day. If there's potentially only 4,000 Think about how grim that number is. So there could be a population of 4,000, and you have 200 to 400 snow leopards a day getting poached. So we need. I mean, I'm so glad there's 1,000 people listening, because this is a species that really, really needs help fast. The other threat is when I went to Qinghai province, we stayed in yak herders camps, and I got to know these yak herders. I judge them as to be the toughest people on earth that I've ever met, because they're similar. They live in a similar climate to the Inuits, except they live at 15,000 feet, and they're trying to herd their yaks and sheep and goats, and that's basically their only, living. You can't farm up there. You can farm very little in the summer, but these guys are scraping for a living. And these guys are in Qinghai province in China, so I mean they have it pretty rough, and it's super remote up there. Well, they're also Buddhist, and they don't like to kill things. They believe it messes up, the karma for the afterlife. So they like to avoid it, and they do like, and they respect snow leopards. It's kind of a part of their culture, but if you only make $1 or $1 or $2 a day, and a snow leopard comes in and jumps into the corral that you've put the sheep in for the night and kills 35 sheep in one night, goes into a killing frenzy, you are going to do what you have to do to protect your family, karma or not. And then that's where the biggest problems happen with the snow leopards, is this overgrazing of grazers that have no alternative income. And it's a retribution killing when the snow leopard that has run out of its native prey because their habitat has been overgrazed, it's been taken over by domestics. Well, the snow leopard will turn to domestic if it has to, and then they get killed. It's called retribution killing, and it's terrible. But there's several great ways to mitigate this. And the first one that WWF and Snow Leopard Trust and that are beginning to do is set up these predator-proof corrals. It's not very difficult to have your livestock not killed by snow leopards. Not only snow leopards, but Tibetan wolves and brown bears. It's not hard. You just have to invest some money. So what a lot of these conservation organizations are doing, and I'll talk more about it again, is set up the stone corral like they normally do, but have a chain link fence over the top. I mean, it's key. You just got to do that, and then you'll have it so you can't complain about the retribution killings anymore. So the region where I've been having the most luck when leading these expeditions is in Ladakh, India. So this is the headwaters of the Indus River. It's a beautiful place, and one of the things that we do when we come here is in the beginning of the trip is we kind of acclimate ourselves, to the altitude, and spend several days. And we visit these monasteries. And what I believe is very special, because the atmosphere of the Buddhist high altitude, high Asia culture is so stoic and concentrated and disciplined. And what I tell people that I'm with is we're acclimating today to the altitude, but we're also going to acclimate to the mental state of being in snow leopard country, because snow leopard expedition is not for everybody. And it takes, just like it does to take being one of these monks, discipline, concentration, patience, and if you can have those, if you do see a snow leopard in the wild, in my opinion, it's like the ultimate in the Zen sort of transcendence, or like enlightenment of ultimate enlightenment for a wildlife lover to spot one. But it's a different kind of expedition. But I mean, how do these expeditions work? Well, there's several different ways in India. But what my goal and the goal of my team that I'm working with up there now, that's working towards conservation, is to spread these different models of how to show people snow leopards and take them to that transcendent level of wildlife viewing and save the snow leopards, but not just in this one spot in India. These several regions that are doing very well. It's just to be able to learn from it and then spread these models that work so well out to other parts of Central Asia, Mongolia, and China. And so there's a lot of different ways to do it in different places. The way that I've been doing it recently is through these camps in kind of remote habitat. We set them up, and then we take them down later. And they work really well. We have heated tents, heated yurts. We're basically right in the middle of, we spot snow leopards from camp a lot. But that's kind of what we do. And it works really well. Other operations, such as the one I'll be doing, we'll be doing them in buildings, like in a village, maybe homestays and that sort of stuff. That's another popular way to do it. So there's a lot of different ways. And I think the point is that what we want to do as a team is to have lots of different options for lots of people, so we can get the most people up there, do it responsibly and ethically, and then you start to get the people. The reason why we're so successful in 5 years, 100% success rate, and in snow leopard spottings for 5 years, and this year we had 30 snow leopard sightings in 34 days of tracking snow leopards. So it's basically almost a snow leopard a day sighting. So there's a trick though, and what we figured out is you have to have these guys. These are wildlife department officers that are the experts, the ultimate experts of snow leopard conservation and tracking. They know how to stare at a scope and spot something that you could look and you have no idea how they saw it. And it's been 20 years of experience on these guys, and you have the best optics available. So we basically, Swarovski even helps us, but we use these Swarovski BTX scopes with 2 eyepieces, so these spotters can stare all day without getting eye fatigue. And then they just become extremely good at it. And they go out and they just work really hard, spread out strategically different places. And there'll be a snow leopard or 2 out there somewhere where these guys will find it. And when they find it, they radio us, and then we go see it. And that's the trick. And what it does also is it provides these guys an amazing job. This is one of the most well-respected jobs in the region, and well-paying, is to be a snow leopard spotter. So that's what we need, is we're building this industry of snow leopard ecotourism that will save the species and its habitat. It's fantastic, and I just can't say enough about these guys. I mean, they're tough. They love snow leopards so much, and that's what it takes. But this is just in one region in India. What we need to do is use these tools and these skills taught by these guys in other parts, so we can also help protect the snow leopards of Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, China, other regions in India. So it's about spreading out, and that's our main goal. This is one of the gals on my trip last February with this is Smanla Searing and his buddy Kenrob Funsag, who are the snow leopard legends. They've got more experience in snow leopard country dealing with wild snow leopards than anybody else really in the world, and they're the best at spotting. Just a second. Okay, I need to speed up a little bit. I couldn't get my shit. This is against Manla and Ken Robin in one of our geodesic domes with this famous author named Maggie Shipstead, who was up there to do a piece on snow leopard conservation, and she spent 2 weeks with us for Condé Nast Traveler, that should be out soon. And then it's about the spotters. It's about the, this super cool gal named Rixine. She's the only snow leopard guide that's a female. And she basically is with us all the time, and just these Ladakhi people are so wonderful. So we're employing all these people. We have 13 people that we employ for this camp, plus all the horsemen that we have used to take supplies in and out of our camp. And this is the whole team with the 6 clients and myself. So that's the point, is that we need to expand this tourism so there's not just a few trips a year. We have lots of trips that are going with natural habitat, with this operation, with other operations, not just in India, other places. So we need to learn and build. And the people that came on this trip, on my trips, have just been like, that's really maybe the coolest wildlife experience I've ever had. And this we basically, Smanla or somebody says, hey guys, there's a mom and cub snow leopard. We hike over there, and we set up our stuff, and we sit and we use our patience and we watch. And then this is the time where we got that footage of the mom and cubs playing that I showed you. People are going to ask about high altitude. Yes, I mean it's definitely 13,000 to 15,000 feet. And so we acclimate very well. We're very good at acclimating. But we also monitor our rates, like with this pulse oximeter, and we know we're all medically trained, and we will basically have people descend immediately if they have a little bit of a problem, if their oxygen gets too low. But we also carry supplemental oxygen, and a hyperbaric chamber. So we just hike around during the day and till one of the spotter spots won, and we spend a lot of time visiting these remote villages that are not even on the road system, and learning about the cultural aspects of these little villages, these subsistence villages that basically live right in amidst snow leopard country. And these Ladakhi people are fantastic. This is the horseman that's in charge of doing our supply runs, and he loves us. And these gals make these toys. One of the Snow Leopard Trust that I mentioned several times, one of their programs is they teach these village women how to make these really cool snow leopard toys that are fantastic, and they're great. I buy up hundreds of dollars worth of them and give them as Christmas presents and Christmas ornaments and stuff like that. Well, it's this love of snow leopards that these villagers are seeing is what's going to save this species. This woman, for example, I asked her directly, I said, how do you feel about living in snow leopard country? She said, well, dude, I used to hate snow leopards because I had a snow leopard one time come in and kill my sheep, all of them. And so how could I not hate that animal? That was my livelihood. Well, now she doesn't have so many sheep, but the park fees for guiding the national park for all these people that we bring in actually pay for projects such as the predator-proof corrals, solar panels for them. So every time that she sees us see a snow leopard or knows the snow leopards are safe and we're going to come in there and be happy and come back next year with more groups, she's very happy. Now she said, I love snow leopards. That is where it's at. And it's using ecotourism to save the species. And this is a greater opportunity to do that than I've ever seen. So I just hope the coronavirus goes away. These are just pictures from our area. So snow leopards, like I said, is the most amazing wildlife, mountain range in the world. It's fantastic. They call it the roof of the world. But why do we need to save these snow leopards? Why can't we just have them in zoos? Well, when I look at a mountain range like this, I know that's snow leopard country. To me, it's the soul and the character of those mountains. Without them, it's just not the same. So when we decide, let's say that everything's gone well, we've gotten tourism businesses and we've gotten these good NGOs like WWF and Snow Leopard Trust to help. Well, what it does is it protects its habitat, and that's really great because like these glaciers and this habitat, these are the headwaters of 2 billion people. Snow leopard habitat so that means the snow leopard is an umbrella species. They're charismatic. We want to save them. We put conservation efforts go towards them. And the snow leopard habitat, it provides water from 56,000 glaciers in the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau. And that feeds 20 of Asia's greatest rivers. And those rivers support and influence 2 billion people. So this is one of like WWF's kind of models. And the snow leopard is a really, really key umbrella species. So if we decide we love snow leopards and want to save them, we have to make some big decisions that are going to help everybody down the line. An umbrella species, it also conserves other really cool animals. So as long as you just preserve for the snow leopards, these are the other animals that share this habitat, such as golden eagle feeding on a blue sheep carcass. This is a lammergeier, but it's a 10-foot wingspan. And these guys eat bones. Basically, after other scavengers have left, they can basically swallow bones, crush them up, and can basically call them ossifrage and can live on all bone diet. So they're really amazing. I love lammergeiers. This is a mystical giant griffin, Himalayan griffin. Also huge wings. And you see these monstrous 10-foot wingspan birds soaring in the sky, and it's just magical. And without snow leopards making, those two species aren't going to make it. There's lots of other, like these Tibetan partridges, chukar partridge, snowcock, Tibetan snowcock. In some of the areas in the Tibetan Plateau, the prey base is pika. I'm talking about like 13 different species of pika, and there's times where I've looked out across the Tibetan Plateau and counted hundreds and hundreds of pika. The woolly hare, Tibetan gazelle. These are animals you don't need to hear about them. You don't need to try to conserve these animals. Just pick the snow leopard and they're all good. How about a wild yak? Wow, I never thought I'd ever see a wild yak in my life in the wild, but I did. Qinghai province with my buddy Philip. These guys are monsters. They're 2,000 pounds in size. of a domestic yak, and chiru. If you watch the film Born in China, chirus, there's a great part of the film about chirus. Tibetan antelope, another name for it. Another great conservation story. Pallas cats, which is like a small, short-legged bobcat with a super woolly coat that actually the hardest cats in the world to see in the wild. But I was in the Qinghai province in China. I was able to see one. Again, protected in these areas by snow leopard conservation. This isn't my pick, but just to show the face, how cute these guys are. They've got round pupils like the big cats do, not vertical like most small cats. Pictures either, but stone marten, Himalayan and Tibetan brown bear. And this is another species that really needs help because they conflict with people. And one of my main goals also in the future is to start bear viewing programs in some of these places that do have really good numbers of brown bears, but conflict with the grazing people and nomadic people. As soon as we start putting a value on the bears in the wild, start using our funds from the tourism to start building things like bear-proof, storage for food, and maybe electric fences, same stuff we do with polar bears. If we can use that, then we can save an incredible species and very, very, very endangered. Beautiful bird. Wolf. That's not in the zoo. It's actually off the side of the road in Qinghai province, and it was stalking some domestic yaks. We were driving by and we saw it. So there's a lot of conflict that we need to address these issues with the large predators, and predator-proof corrals is the best way to do it. I think by time, I think I'm going to skip the wolf video. You can always go to my Instagram page at the end, and then you can see some of my other videos, but again, I'm just going to skip that video there. This Tibetan fox, check this guy out. So I can't, of course, I have an hour. I can't talk about all these animals. I just want to show you that snow leopard habitat conservation is going to benefit lots of different cool. Who conserves the snow leopards? Well, if you engage in snow leopard tourism, you do directly, because you are making those villagers happy, employing them to cook your food, to carry your stuff, to manage your camp, to spot the snow leopards. But there's also, if you can't do that, and there's ways to help save the snow leopards. There's lots of groups, and I can't go into all of them, that do conserve snow leopards, and because they're a charismatic species. And I'm just going to go through my two top favorites. There's obviously World Wildlife Fund, powerhouses that get up into the government levels and make huge changes and tackle giant things like getting governments together to fight the climate change. And the Snow Leopard Trust is also amazing, working with the predator-proof corrals, and teaching people how to, make those toys, and just doing tons and tons of work. So just check these organizations out. And the thing is that instead of just talking about them all or picking one, I just want to highlight that it's really with a population, with a species as complex as snow leopards and such problems with so many different governments across 12 countries and so many different issues. We need to have all these organizations working together, which they do, like such as this WWF, works with a lot of other organizations that starts the GSLAP program. And this is basically political decisions, getting these developing countries like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, India, all 12 of those nations, getting together. And these are just the 3 latest publications by GSLAP. So, starting a new snow leopard survey in Russia with WWF. These steering committee meetings, where these governments are getting together, making decisions to save this species. So this is all great stuff. I got to give a great shout out to my very, very good friend and partner who I'm working with, running the trips, but also we've got some big plans to help. We actually just went live yesterday. This is Bazad, and he's in love with snow leopards as I am, and we are going to do some huge things with our team up there. So our team being Bazad, and we've got Kenrod Flintsog. He was the one that narrated that snow leopard mom and cub video. He and Smana with the top right. Those guys are the head of the wildlife department for Himalayas National Park, and they are the ones that the BBC uses whenever they need to get snow leopard footage. They are dedicated, diehard snow leopard conservationists, biologists, the best spotters in the world, and their skill right now is going to be to train younger generations to to have these awesome jobs. And we've got another part of our team is Rashid. I just want to say hi to him, and just an awesome guide. And he was a mountain rescue guy for a long time, and he's just a part of our team. And Dorje Stanzen, who's actually probably voted for the best snow leopard spotter right now. So these are the guys that we work with, and this is a powerhouse team. That now what we've done, we're actually sent Kenrob up to Kyrgyzstan last winter to start getting the national parks of Kyrgyzstan that have zero snow leopard tourism, training those rangers how to become the same skill, so they can run their own programs and put a value on the snow leopards in those regions. So we're not just thinking about the success of one spot, we're thinking about it on an entire High Asia region basis in the future. And when you do something like quarantine, guys like Bazad and I, and we were actually really inspired by Natural Habitat starting that awesome fund that has already raised almost $200,000 in 2 weeks, basically to keep these local people at the local levels employed. So yesterday it just went live, but we started our own fund. It's called the High Asia Habitat Fund, and because we saw a niche for there to be conservation efforts that are different. They need to be focused a certain way, and the first thing we want to do is, instead of just make sure these guys don't starve to death, we're hoping this fund just went today, but they've lost a ton of income because of the COVID, right? And it's getting scary. And that's what that's going to do, is it's going to make the whole problem even worse. They're not going to have the tourists coming in. They're going to do more grazing. There's going to be more conflicts. So what we've done is, this is our plan. It's very new, but we're going to take the money to buy all these predator-proof corrals, and then we're going to hire these locals that are out of work now to install them, so we can nip this whole thing with the predator preying on livestock and the retribution killing in the bud. So it's actually a pretty brilliant thing, and it's what happens when you keep up guys like Bazad and I and all the guys over there in India. Our team of people, we're gonna use our time wisely, because the COVID-19 is, I gotta say, it's devastating. I think that for the local tourism, local economies that thrive on travel, it's the first thing that's going to suffer. These guys don't have big bank accounts, and so, anyways, this is something that we're doing and trying to keep everybody still happy. And if they're happy, snow leopards are going to be alive. I just wanted to, I think I got everything. There's a lot to cover, but I think I just want to, now that we've talked about some heavy stuff, maybe we can show that last video. It's just kind of a sweet video. This was taken on my birthday. And what it did is we were scouting out a new spot because we want to spread out our camp to places so that everybody in this region, not just one small valley and a few villages in one valley, we want to spread that benefit of employment through our programs out. And we scouted it out, and for my birthday we got to watch a mating pair of snow leopards doing their thing. And then at the very end, I think is really sweet, is I show these villagers who have never really seen foreigners before, because we've picked a really remote area that people don't go to, and how happy they were to see us so excited spotting these snow leopards. Can you play that video if you don't mind?
Yeah, you see?
Yeah, I do see him.
Looking at us. Is this somebody from the sea? Looking at us. Is this somebody from the sea?
Oh, there it is. No, I can see him very well. Guys, do you see there's like a cave? Yeah. There's like a cave, okay? There's like a long, narrow cave. Yeah, he's in that cave. Up high?
Can I zoom in?
There it is. There she is.
Zoom out. zoom out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here.
Right by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. Hold it. Me? Oh yeah. He's standing on. That's a picture I already took. It's not in there now. Yeah, I already took that picture. So these are the villagers. Shan Dinmo, Shan Dinmo. Shan Dinmo. Dinmo Shan. I'm saying beautiful snow leopard, beautiful snow leopard.
That was amazing, Brad. I'm sure that was a birthday that you will never forget.
Yeah, that was amazing, and it was the magic. I think that video. I just wanted to leave that video with
we
the
got you,
sweet
Brad.
part of it. I'm just so happy that Natural Habitat is going to begin doing this. So if you want to learn more about snow leopards, check out our High Asia Habitat Fund.
All right, Brad, thank you. This has been a wonderful presentation, and I will be sure to send the comments along to you. So many positive comments and so many people inspired to get out there and also to help protect from their homes through donations and so forth. So I'll turn it back to you now for closing comments.
Oh, yeah, just thanks, guys, again. I just think that the snow leopards, like I said, are a species that desperately needs attention, and we just don't want to lose them. It's in a very vulnerable part of the world. It's vulnerable politically, it's vulnerable economically, and it's vulnerable as far as climate change goes. And when you see snow leopard country, and whether you see one or not, but if you're there, you just know you're in intact wilderness, and I just want to be one of the people that help keep that status of snow leopard country as going as long as possible. I just don't want these guys to go extinct. So just kind of doing whatever. And thank you so much for all the listeners. I really appreciate it.
And my thanks as well. And with that, we will wrap up our webinar. Want to remind you that we have another topic tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the grizzlies of Yellowstone, and we look forward to seeing you on that presentation. But for now, we will say good day and conclude our webinar. Goodbye, everyone.